Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Chatterbox, with me, the Chatterbox. This week at CCC, we've unofficially dubbed it Dial-Up Appreciation Week. So in the spirit of dial-up speed, we've added a beautiful, grainy, and low-res filter to our videos to give a great nod back to those wonderful days of dial-up speed, weird computer robot gibberish, and timing out before loading a page. If you like what you see, feel free to hit the like button, leave us a comment, or subscribe for some future content. What we got this week for you guys is an interview with Ray Chase, an LA voice actor doing a lot of work in video games and animation lately. He's most notable for his role in Final Fantasy XV as Noctis Lucius Callum, among many other video game and animation credits, and hundreds of audiobooks. So for your pleasure, here he is. Alright guys, I know you've been waiting for it, I've been waiting for it, and it's finally here. Everybody, meet Ray Chase. Ray Chase, meet everybody.
Hi, everybody. I don't know all of your names. I'm sure Jeff is here and maybe Richard and Ashley. I know you guys are here. Thanks for coming.
Oh, man. So Ray Chase is a giant. He's got, I'm just going to go real quick through some of these credits. FFXV, you guys know that one. Kingsglaive, Kingdom Hearts 2.8, Nier, One Punch Man, Lego City, Dissidia, Agents of Mayhem, Fire Emblem, Mass Effect, Halo Wars, Justice League, Fallout 4, Hunter by Hunter, Sword Art, and just so many other stuff. Those are the only ones that I know. And honestly, just so everybody knows, I'm not a big anime guy, so a lot of these I can't truly appreciate, I'll say.
Or pronounce their names.
Yeah, that too. I was
You're going to get roasted.
I'm okay with that. It's still loads of fun. But thank you for doing this interview.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on. You contacted me out of the blue, and I'd never heard of casting call .club. And I looked it up, and it's awesome. I think it's something that was missing for getting yourself started doing YouTube videos and video games from when I first started about 8 years ago. I think it's a really, really good way to that kind of, hey, I'm at the amateur level. I know I don't have the technology to compete at the professional level, but I still want to get better. This is how you get better.
That's where my passion for this whole site comes from. That's where I ended up coming up on the team because 5 years ago I started when CCC was starting, and 2 years ago I did my transition getting out of the Navy, and I was like, well, what do I want to do? But I got all this amateur experience being a voice actor, learning mic techniques, learning how to use a mic, learning, the engineering side and the technical side of it, how to edit audio and all that stuff. So I was like, well, I got a solid foundation, so let's move up from there. How do I become no longer a big fish in a small pond and a small fish in a bigger pond? And
exactly, yeah.
It's been a blast.
I'm sure the connections that you make on this site just last forever.
Yeah. And the ones that I make out in person, the professional voiceover world is awesome. Everybody is so great to talk to. This is something I bring up in every one of the interviews. Everyone's just so friendly, when you go out there and meet people and shake hands. And so really quickly, I wanted to talk about a couple things, some of these credits. So FFXV, this is your powerhouse right now. This is what everybody, not to say you get typecast or anything, but there's always that one big project. Like last week, we interviewed Andy Field, and he was on Five Nights at Freddy's. He's got a lot of commercial work behind him, a lot of commercial work, some character work, but then that's what kind of put him in the spotlight. That's what gave him that little verified badge on Twitter, And also, so I'm going to go through a couple of others. This is what stuck out to me too. Fallout 4. I did not know you were in Fallout 4.
Well, not really, unfortunately. They were kind enough to let me keep my credit. My character was cut. I did work on the game a couple of years back. I had a couple of sessions on it, and it was a dream come true. Fallout's my favorite series.
I know. But, I saw that in an interview.
Didn't work out. Oh, you saw an interview?
Yeah, I made sure I was prepared for this one. I was watching an interview of you, and I remember you saying Fallout New Vegas was your favorite video game, and that made me
favorite video game of all time.
Because I just started going back through Fallout 4 again, and I was like, oh, he's in that one too. We can talk about that, but
yeah, unfortunately not.
Yeah,
it's a bummer. But hopefully they'll keep me in mind for Fallout 5.
I had an experience like that with the game State of Decay, one of the games State of Decay 2 that's coming out. I was like, oh man, I was through the door. I was looking at my star, and then all of a sudden it just twinkled out, and they're like, sorry, it's over for you today though. You can come back tomorrow. And I never got a call.
I'm sorry. You worked on it, but you didn't make it into the game?
Yeah.
Ah, it's a bummer, man.
That's okay. I got some more stuff coming
up. When I went to the cast party, I talked to a bunch of people about what the heck, because I didn't know that I was my character was cut until it came out. And I talked with a lot of people. Matt Mercer was there, Matt Yang King, and we talked about getting cut and getting recast, and they regaled me with stories that happened to them and to other people, and it's a what is it, a badge of honor. If you are going to get started in voiceover, you're going to get recast, and it's just something that happens.
Yeah, and also, not even just that too, is the denial factor too, the understanding that you may have what somebody wants, but it may not be what this guy wants. So not getting cast for something isn't necessarily somebody denying your skill, your effort. It's just your personality. Well, not your personality. It's your persona. The person that you are selling isn't what they want to buy. That's
exactly
just as simple as it is. It's not so much of getting down on yourself and thinking that, man, I got so much work to do. I'm better than this. Like that's another big thing about the voice actor business. But now we got so many questions from the fans out there that submitted.
Sure.
So I want to move into kind of, the big meat of the interview. I want to talk about your past. Kind of, let's start from as far back as you want to go, but we can say high school, just to say where you wanted to go from there to lead you on the path that led here.
So high school, I was sort of aware that voice acting was a profession, but it wasn't really something that had crossed my mind a lot. I always grew up mimicking voices on TV and video games and stuff, but especially video games, there just weren't that many out there that had voices. Yeah. So it would be like, wow, that would be cool if I got to work on a video game, but I didn't have the concept of what that actually meant. So I did theater in high school, a great deal, and forensics. So I was always doing monologues and competing and coming up with lots of different voices. For forensics, that's when you do the dramatic interpretation, the humorous interpretation. And that's when you're popping from character to character and having to do it really fast. And I was really good at that. And so
I wish I would have known that. I did theater in high school, but I thought forensics club was like just a bunch of hobbyists getting like a sandbox and they have to find clues in the sandbox and solve a crime.
Not at all.
That's
a lot of really good acting opportunities in forensics.
Really good guns.
Yeah, they should change the name, honestly. So that was high school. And then college, I went to school for theater and film at University of Southern California. And there was not much voiceover stuff at the time. I did a lot of student films. I did around 70 while I was there. And I did improv with Comitas Interruptus, our improv troupe, and I just
I
really
just realized what that name was. Okay, never mind. That's good.
Comitas Interruptus, yeah. So we did. So I just put myself out there as much as possible, and that was when I booked my first voiceover gig because there was one of those little papers on a bulletin board that has a phone number that you detach.
Yeah.
It was just an industrial for biomass in Michigan. It was a video called "The Color of Energy," and it paid like $100. But I got to record in a real studio, and it was super fun. And so that was my first real voiceover job, was from a bulletin board.
That's impressive. I feel like you're undercutting yourself here with your education. Didn't you graduate summa cum laude from that school?
Yes, but nobody pays attention to that when they're looking for your acting resume.
Yeah.
I just noticed that. I've always loved academics, and I took that stuff seriously. So yeah, that was a big part of my life too.
Yeah. So after education and stuff like that, you had that one voiceover credit under your belt, and you were trying to think. So you got this degree. You've been taught in the many different forms of acting and entertainment. So what led you to go down this path instead of oh, by the way, before I say it, where are you located currently?
I live in Studio City, California.
Awesome, over by Ventura. Yeah, I was assuming if you do video games and animation, you're definitely down, on Ventura Boulevard somewhere.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff out here and a lot of stuff in Burbank, and so this is kind of central to it all.
Yeah. Okay. So, what made you, when you moved down to LA, why were you so drawn to voiceover instead of film and television?
Well, I did do the film and TV thing. I had horrific acne all over my face and not a lot of self-confidence. So I had an agent for a little while, went on about 50 auditions, nothing happened, and I said, this is not gonna I know 50 isn't any sort of benchmark, but I had a feeling like this is not for me at this time.
Yeah.
So I found out about Voice 123 somehow, paid for it, made some demos myself, and I started auditioning for that. It took me 6 months to book my first gig on that, and that was only because 2 people had auditioned for it, me and one other guy. It was a Russian hang gliding game. It also paid $100, and with that $100, I bought a better microphone. And then as that year went on, I started booking slightly more and more. Never a huge success on that site, but definitely enough to pay for. What you really get is not the first job, but the subsequent jobs that you get from a site like that. Is like that guy, Dmitry Kuzmenko, who hired me for my first gig on that. We still talk, and he still hires me for stuff to this day.
Yeah, the follow-on work you make with these clients.
Exactly. So that's really the most important thing is establishing these connections that will, as long as you do a good job and you're easy to work with, which not everyone can do, you will work with these people again.
Yeah, truthfully, I love making new friends, meeting new people, networking, and stuff like that. So I love like meetups. I love networking events, getting to know people. So every time I've done a session in my booth with somebody else connected to it, my goal is if they're not actively waiting for me to give them a line, I'm trying to make them laugh. Not trying to push too hard, but I love making people laugh and having fun and you know, connecting and making new friends and stuff like that. So that's one thing I noticed too is the 2 people that I made to laugh most so far have came back for follow-on work. A different production company that did me for like a Petco commercial and a couple other things.
Perfect. You're live on them? You have Source Connect and stuff?
Say that again?
You're live with them? You have Source Connect?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, when I was first starting out, that was not an option for me, at least. They probably didn't. I don't even know if they had the technology 8 years ago.
Yeah,
I think it was just
they had ISDN, but that was
very expensive.
Very expensive.
Yeah,
in my
I
neck of the
didn't
woods.
have that. Yeah, I didn't have that opportunity. It was just all through email and then sending emails back and forth. But yeah, that's great. If you can afford Source Connect and set it up, I would highly recommend that for starting out. Gosh, I wouldn't know what that would even be like. Starting out with Source Connect, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, it's there's so many things nowadays that can help boost you from, you know, going from zero to, I'm not gonna say zero to hero, but from nothing to something.
Exactly. Yeah, that's
like
great.
CCC helped me get from that point, and then like you said, some of the beta plays helped me, you know, become that smaller fish in the bigger pond, and then upgrading my equipment slowly, taking some classes, getting my demos professionally produced after like 4 years of having self-produced demos, and
yeah.
I mean, those work too if I was casting for like indie video games and stuff, and that's kind of like my biggest niche out here in Seattle is all the indie video game developers that I've networked with and stuff and done video game stuff for that, and that's still kind of small, you know, it's only like $200 a roll, but that's something, you know, and that
adds up for sure.
Everybody's got to find their market, even if you're not in LA, you just got to find out what your market needs.
Yes.
And give them what they want. Oh, here's one thing I want to mention too. So there's a guy on CCC. He's a big YouTuber. He's got hundreds of thousands of followers and millions of views and stuff. But he goes by the name of Lord Frieza. And I heard that there is one anime character you really don't like.
Is that true? It might have been for a convention that I said, I don't like. Yeah, if I had to pick one. But no, I mean, Dragon Ball's amazing. I grew up watching that stuff, so I don't mind him. It must have been, if there's someone I don't like I literally can't stand the sight of them in an anime. Yeah, that's probably why I said Frieza. I was just like, he's just a detestable guy.
His voice is so cringy, though. He just sits there and comments on everything, and he's just, you know, just trashing everybody in his videos. It's pretty fun and entertaining. Yeah. Oh, another thing. This is not one of the questions, but something that somebody else brought up. So you actually are, you know, an anime and a video game fan. You're a true passion. You're very passionate about the stuff that you do, which is great to hear. I'm curious if you've watched any of the. There's a lot of fan projects out there for some of the other stuff. Most specifically, like most specifically, Final Fantasy 15. Have you seen any of the hundreds of cartoons that have been made, you know, parodying Final Fantasy?
Oh yeah, definitely. My favorite one, there was one about. It was from a smaller YouTuber, but it was just like 30 seconds. And it was drawn like Psychic Pebbles kind of style, and Chris O'Neill It was about doing Noctis doing the beans line. I wish I could find it, but that was my favorite. It was really, really good.
Oh, there's one from a guy that actually he's a big YouTube animator. He's got millions of views and stuff. He makes these super in-depth, like full-length television quality cartoons, and he's refused to get with anybody else because he likes to have the freedom, you know, of doing it by himself. But he's made videos for Fallout, for Final Fantasy, for Tomb Raider, and for Doom, and they're hilarious. He made one called Fun and Fantasy, and it's 25 minutes basically chronicling the entire game of Final Fantasy 15 and every little like funny detail about it. It's a great watch. I'd recommend it to you if you haven't seen it.
Fun and Fantasy. Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, and not just because I was in it. I wasn't the voice of Noctis, though. Actually, Noctis is the main character, so the Italian animator, Matthew Chesman, he's the one who did your voice. And, of course, I normally, when I do voiceover, I play up high. I play, you know, up here, usually. But he wanted me to do, I was like, I'll do Prompto. And he's like, no, you're going to do Gladio. And I was like, yeah. So after 2 hours in my booth recording all those lines, I was like, I'm just going to sit down. Because I was like, Noctis! Trying my best to get that voice out there. And then I find out later on he just, you know, did a pitch change to it to make it even deeper. And I'm like, oh come on, man. I could have just done my normal lines like this. But you didn't, you know, you didn't get the grit involved in it just from doing it that way.
Well, the guy, Chris Parson, who does it, who actually does Gladio, he just gets real close, and that really helps. So if you get closer, that can help, so you don't have to go as deep.
Yeah, I didn't go deep for the deepness. I just went for the gruff. Noctis.
Yeah.
Here we go. Yeah, and that's a strain on the throat for 2 hours of doing that when it's not natural for you. But so let's talk about right now in the present for voiceover. What kind of things have you been doing to kind of keep yourself current to you know, training, practice, networking, marketing, anything that you've been doing recently that you can talk about in those terms?
Well, the main thing that I want to do for this year is for training. I want to do a lot of more movement training and stuff. Now the strike's over, thank God. There's more mocap opportunities. Yeah. And so I want to get my gun skill and get my weapon skill up there so that when I go into the room for these sorts of things, I can confidently say, I can do this. I did a couple of sessions on a game that's coming out this year where I had to hold a rifle. And it's something, you know, you can pretend and look cool, but if you really know how to do it and you really know how to reload, then you look that much better, that much more confident. So that's my goal for this year.
Yeah, I almost got a mocap opportunity from my agent out in San Francisco, and I was like, sure. Like, on my resume, this is all my skills and training. I've done that stuff, you know, my military experience. I was like, well, I've never done mocap before, so I still feel like that would be a little different, especially because since I got out, I've put on like 20 pounds. I was like, I don't know if they want me to jump over a barricade and like roll, do a dive roll, grab my gun, and start screaming and stuff, and have all the little, you know, ping pong balls over your body. That'd be fun, though.
So you definitely, they throw you in for sure.
Oh yeah, and especially if every single time you do another one, they're like, "What's another $200? You know, if you want to do that too."
Exactly. Sure. You don't get paid more, unfortunately, not.
Oh, I'll be like, "Well, if I'm here."
Just, they have you for the day. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but you know what? If video games are your passion, you know, and voiceover is your passion, and this is your passion, you're just there for fun anyway, right?
Absolutely.
So it's all worth it. So man, I want to. So okay, I want to switch gears here to talking about audiobooks. So how exactly did you get into audiobooks? What was your first step in that one?
So audiobooks, I don't know how I found out about them as a real opportunity that I could do. But there was a site, or there still is a site called ACX. And what I did, I don't know if this is still the case, but if you upload your, and this is dumb advice because this isn't going to work at all in today's day, but this was how I got my start, and this will not work now because I don't think these opportunities exist anymore. I uploaded my reels. I made about 6 or 7 reels at home. It took me about a full day because they take a while, and uploaded them. And the way their demos worked was the way the site worked was the demos that were uploaded soonest went to the top.
Oh yeah.
of all of the demos. And so there was a woman, Jennifer, from a company called B Audio out in Oregon, who happened to be on the site the day that that I had uploaded my demos. They were right at the top, and she was combing through ACX looking for new narrators because B Audio was about to do a ton of books for Audible. This was 2013 when Amazon decided we want to have 100,000 books. And so they did a lot of stuff in-house, but they really farmed out a lot of that work to these production houses like B Audio or Dion Audio or Tantor. And there was just an insane amount of work with no real oversight, whether these were quality or not.
Oh,
so they were
Wild
looking
West.
for just
Wild West of audiobooks.
Wild West. And so someone like me who had zero experience could suddenly say, yes, I am ready to do an audiobook. My first audiobook was called The Wanderers, which was a Spanish zombie book. And I did the whole thing in a Spanish accent. It was about a 10-hour book, and I did not have a studio, so I recorded in the mountains. I would drive out to the mountains at around midnight, record from midnight to 4 a.m., which was about when my laptop battery would.
That is insane.
My car.
I've never.
Yeah,
that's of all the stories I've heard. That's probably the most commitment. You know, like people who are like, yeah, I record from 10 o'clock to 2 in the morning when my kids are asleep. And
yeah, I had to do it because I tried so many different times to like find a place in Los Angeles, but the planes overhead, you just have a plane coming overhead every minute or two, or a truck driving by. So I would have to drive all the way out, like La Tuna Canyon was where I would go, and find a spot. And there were many times, because if you're just weirdly parking your car somewhere at midnight, a homeowner is going to come around and go, "What the heck are you doing on my lawn?" So that was my first about 2 months I did until I saved enough to buy a booth for myself, and then I did it out from my apartment.
Awesome.
But I did about 160 or so in a 2 to 3 year period, and just did as many as I could. It was
Did you have somebody else do your editing, or were you doing all your editing and mastering yourself?
The only reason that I was able to do that was because I had a company. So they had a proofer and an editor, and of course some books needed a lot more proofing than others, just because of difficulty. Or, God, there was one where I mispronounced the person's name throughout the entire book, the main character,
I
and I had to redo the whole book all over again. It was an alternate history based on a real person, and so he did have a real pronunciation. Okay. And I'd looked up, the other thing is, sometimes you look up the wrong pronunciation. There was a Marvel book I did where Thor, it was a Thor book, and I looked up this god's pronunciation, and it was the correct Norse pronunciation, but not the Marvel pronunciation. And so I had to redo a couple of hours of that book. So it can those corrections can be really, really brutal sometimes. But I did do a couple where I edited the book myself, and it takes a lot longer to do that.
Yeah.
And it's pretty it'll make you insane after a little while.
I've got a few audiobooks under my belt, and I'm wrapping up one right now, and it's insane. You know, it takes you, it's 45-minute long raw files of just, each chapter, and then it takes almost 3 times as long sometimes if you're going through with a fine-tooth comb to make it, for each chapter. So that's just hours of just staring at audio.
Right.
Oh, man.
It takes a very, very long time. So yeah, that was why a lot of people say, should I get into audiobooks? And I don't know. The days of that Wild West are definitely over. That was a year of lots and lots of work. I don't know if that's the case now.
I would love to do it if I was patched to a different studio and they were worrying about all the editing and stuff, because that's so fun. And that's what I always loved to do in high school. When I was I did the morning announcements in high school. I was always the one who raised my hand to read, from the book, because I just loved reading out loud, and I loved conveying those emotions, like that. It was just always fun. And
right.
But now it's definitely, unless you're paying like half of your pay to another editor, for like $400 to $600, it's like $80 per finished hour for editing, and that just starts eating up all of your pay that you're getting from each book when you're trying to outsource it like that.
Exactly, yeah. And that's why I wouldn't recommend, if you're doing one of those, unless you really know the book's going to sell a lot, those royalty shares can kill you, because you're doing essentially a month's worth of work for free, or spending your own money on someone else's book. And so those can be pretty devastating.
Yeah, the only ones that I've actually done, I've agreed upon finished hour, where we went through, you know, I gave him 2 prices. Here's a finished hour rate, and here's a per word rate. I'll let you pick which one you want to do. If you want to pick the highest or the cheapest, depending on if there's a couple $100 differences there, you know, I'll give them both of those to choose. Normally they go for the higher amount, which, you know, I always appreciate.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, but man, it's just, that's definitely not something that you can get into without knowing how to do audio, how to engineer your own audio pretty well.
Right, yeah.
All right, so I just hit my half an hour mark, and I want to just switch into these questions, because I just got, we opened up a public forum for everybody on the website and also on Twitter for people to just submit their questions. So some of these, of course, are open to the public, which I will skip past these, but some of them are actually pretty good.
Oh, what? Because they're not appropriate questions?
Well, I don't know. I haven't actually filtered through all of them. Some of them are random. Like, let's start with this one. Do you like Cheetos?
I love Flamin' Hot Cheetos. They're the best thing in the world. But the best are Takis. If you ever like Takis, that's my favorite chip.
I like the lime, spicy lime ones. Those are good. All right, so here we go. So what got you into voice acting? We kind of already covered that. How would I, living in Arizona, get into voice acting? Any tips you can give about getting voice acting gigs would be extremely helpful. Also, how did you get the role of Noctis? What was the process? Also, do you have to go... Okay, this is like 10 questions in one, but I think the important question is, for somebody who lives in Arizona, what would you say would be a good way to try to get into voice acting?
Well, Arizona specifically could be anywhere in the country or the world. The web is great. I always recommend Voice 123. They grade your auditions, which is something I wish you'd get in real life.
Yeah.
And then this casting call. This is a great opportunity to get into meet people who you can collaborate with, which is not something that I had when I was first starting out. It's really cool. That way you're not out there in the wastes.
So you heard it from Ray Chase. If you want to become a voice actor, get on CCC and other stuff, and other things.
So anywhere you can do this stuff online, and that's the best way. I think it's the best way to start. I don't know if there's any Arizona specific stuff, but you should have a local. There should be a local place that you can get some stuff if you hang out there. If you do your auditions at the local recording studio, because you have local radio commercials that are recorded somewhere, and bumpers that are put for your news stations. So go find some real flesh and blood people out there, and see if they have any work.
So, as Noctis, if you could meet Sora, what would you say?
Noctis is less likely to meet Sora than the Master of Masters is from Kingdom Hearts. But if Noctis met Sora, I think he would. I think he would say, "You've got some pretty disproportionately large feet, kid." Pretty weird.
Yeah, that's the one thing I always wondered with all those cosplays. I'm like, how do they manage to get those, gigantic shoes, and they're clipping around like somebody in flippers? Like, how do they walk with those?
Yeah, same artist, dude. Nomura.
How did you come across the opportunity to voice a character? Was a job offered to you by an agent, or did you find the audition the same other way? So I'll ask, we'll put that towards Noctis. Did Noctis come from your agent, or did you make that through a connection somewhere?
Yeah, I mean, 99% of everything comes through your agent. So that would be it. Yeah.
So who are you with? What agencies?
I am with SBV Talent in Los Angeles. Great agency.
Have you gotten around to playing Persona 5?
No, it's too much of a time sink. I'm gonna have to wait a little while until I have that much free time. Getting through some other ones first. I'm playing Binding Blade right now. Almost done, and Horizon Zero Dawn, almost done with that one.
Yeah, I still have to finish Horizon. There's so many. These games just take up hours and hours and hours of time that I don't have anymore. Right. Favorite project you've ever worked on, including films, video games, anime, anything?
You know what I really like is I like working with Stupid Buddy a lot. I don't know if I've ever talked about them, but they're the ones who do Robot Chicken, and we do a lot of they do a lot of commercials out there. The Denny's Breakfast Buddy Buddies, or there was this whole bunch of puppet commercials they did for the Madden 16. I love it because it's so freeing to work on something where you have a script, but it doesn't really matter. You can go off script all the time. I like working with Stupid Buddy a lot. They're a lot of fun.
How is voice acting for games different than other forms of entertainment, like cartoons?
So that off-script thing that I talked about with Stupid Buddy never happens with video games. You can't go off-script. Your lines in an Excel spreadsheet, and you have to go through them all, and they usually have to be pretty fast, unless you're doing a cinematic thing. And for Final Fantasy, every single one of the lines was timed out, and we had to get it within 1/10 of a second. So that
because you're almost doing ADR with the original Japanese voice actors, right?
Right, not quite ADR, thankfully, because now they have software that does lip flaps to your lips, so you don't have to match. There's no lips anymore.
Awesome.
That's done through an algorithm, but you do have to get the timing matched.
What would be one good piece of advice you'd give to young aspiring voice actors?
I always say for this question, don't knock commercial and narration work. That is how you can make a living doing this stuff. I would say that for all the video games that I do, it's a very small amount of income compared to narration and promo work. That's really how you can make a living doing this stuff. It's boring. It's not super creatively fulfilling. But that's what pays the bills. That's what the job actually is. And then all the other stuff is the video games and the cartoons and stuff. That's really fun stuff, and that it makes it really interesting. But really study your commercial and get a good commercial sound, and go out after those jobs twice as much.
Yeah, the one thing I tell a lot of people too is you can't even begin to go, think about getting an agent unless you have a commercial reel first, because that's always the bread and butter, with the voiceover world. Yeah,
they will not take you seriously if you just come with character voices, because they're just not that useful, unfortunately.
So we got a cool topic here. Someone brought up something I don't know anything about. Lava.
Yes.
It says you are currently working the possibility of lava shows in the UK, which is great. We'd love to see you out in Germany and around Gamescom. It's a great time to visit the country. Can you tell me about lava? I have no idea what that is.
Lava is loud, annoying, and very annoying. It's a little voice acting troupe that me, Robbie Damon, and Max Middleman started last year, around thereabouts. And we do lots of shows around the country for conventions. Right. And we recently got an opportunity from someone who wants to book us out in the UK. I don't know. They said about it, so it'll happen. I love it. That'd be amazing. I've never been to Central Europe at all.
Awesome. Well, it looks like there's people out there that want you in Germany, so there's an opportunity there. Huh. What was it like hearing yourself in a big project for the first time, realizing that, holy shit, I've got a fan base now?
It didn't start with a fan base, that's for sure. It was funny, the day it comes out, nobody really knows, nobody's played it through. It's only after time goes by that people really pay attention to that sort of stuff. And it's something that I have to remind myself that I'm the guy doing the voice, because I forget that it's me sometimes. When you're playing the game, you go, oh, right, because you have no recollection of these lines. It's just these, so that, it's not as surreal an experience as you might think, except for the times when you realize, oh wait, I did that.
Yeah.
It's very bizarre.
How many Final Fantasy games have you played, and what's your favorite?
I played them all, except the online ones. And my favorites, I love Tactics. I think that's a really good one. I like 8 a lot and 5 a lot. Those are some of my favorites.
I gotta say, 8 has always been my favorite, just because I love the card game, and I like the flow of the game itself. And
the combat is so good. I love the draw system.
Oh yeah, I always love to have a game that has some type of like as you're striking, you can hit X right at the right time, do extra damage. Cause
like Earthbound, yeah.
Yeah, just the simple back and forth, just clicking and watching your character do it. You feel so displaced from the action. That's why I like having those action command kind of things. Sorry for the bunch of questions this guy is asking you. If you read this, I just want to say I highly respect your work and I think you are great at what you do. I especially loved you as Noctis in Final Fantasy 15 since that was a game I was waiting for since I was a toddler. Noctis' last moment with his friends made me cry like a baby when I first saw it. It's great to see you get along with the real-life voices of the bro team. I can't wait to see what's in store for you. To go, Chocobros.
Thank you very much. Who's that from?
I can't. It wasn't showing. A lot of the stuff is showing us the usernames, but not linking them to the actual comments. But
Bummer.
Whoever's out there, they know who they are. And
thank you very much.
Have you ever played? Okay, we already answered that. What do you think Noctis would be doing in Tekken 7?
I don't know. I don't think I will be a part of. I'm sure he's going to be. They've got something there. I haven't been following that game at all because it's not something I'm a part of. So unfortunately, I don't have a better answer. But if it doesn't involve fishing, I don't know what they're going to have to do.
So I know you like the Fallout series, and does that go for the other Bethesda games? That huge open world immersive like Skyrim and Fallout or the Elder Scrolls series?
Yeah, absolutely, love them.
Did you hear about that new one? I only heard a little bit about it. A new IP that they're bringing up, and it's like a space.
The space one, yeah.
Yeah. That's it. I mean, thinking about Skyrim, but in space, I'm like, wow, it's awesome.
It'd be really cool. I try not to follow stuff that early in an announcement cycle because you just, I don't know, you want to wait till the trailers come out. Then I'll start following it.
Yeah, that's been like me since I was, 14 years old. You know, every night dreaming about Kingdom Hearts 3, wondering when the hell that's finally going to come.
Someday.
I don't know if you're allowed to say anything. I'm going to look at your facial expression when I ask this, but are you in Kingdom Hearts 3?
I'm not. As far as I know, I have not. So, yeah.
That's probably the biggest game that I'm waiting for right now just because of the nostalgia and, 2.8, 2.5, 1.5, all those remasters they came out with last year. I got to, relive all those with my daughter who's 9 years old now.
Oh,
so
that's beautiful.
That was so much fun is bringing that back and sharing those memories again. And I think as a voice actor, that's probably one of the best things you can ask for is knowing that your voice is getting shared through the generations, Since you've probably told a million stories about voiceover, are there any live action stories you'd like to share?
I'll say this one. So I ran a production company for a little while. When I was first starting doing the audiobooks thing, I was also spending a lot of time with that. We did digital media for a bunch of YouTubers and Viners and stuff. And when we first started out, we rented out this building that we also had to sleep in because we couldn't afford it. So we had to hide our beds and stuff. And for the first day, we went to IKEA the day before to put in a whole bunch of stuff. We had this big client coming over. And so I stayed up all night and we just assembled all this IKEA furniture and made it look like we had lived there for a long time. And then we invited a bunch of our friends over and promised them pizza if they would pretend to work at our production company. And so the guy came in, he walked in. My job was to be in the studio, directing some actors on a project we were working on. We can't talk about this project. We're in the middle of filming right now. Please go upstairs. So he had to walk upstairs past our receptionist, and then finally met with us, and it worked. He liked us and he gave us a whole bunch of work. But that's how we first started out.
That's the true definition of fake it till you make it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it works. I mean, that's what I had to do when I first, like two or 3 years ago, I was going to all these meetups in Seattle, and I made business cards. I didn't even have a demo reel, but I had business cards, and I'm like, hey, yeah, I'm a voice actor. Here's my card, my website.
Perfect.
Yeah, take a look and stuff. And I only had one, self-produced character voice reel that was just kind of hard to get to with different links. So you'd have to go through a bunch of nice written stuff, headshots, pictures of other things, other projects that I've worked on that had awesome thumbnails. So that by the time they got to the character reel, they were either just like, well, where's the rest of it? No, it's fine. There's a lot here. He's good.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Smart.
yeah, that actually got me some good paying, $6,000 to $1,000 video game stuff out here in Seattle. There's a lot of indie video games in Seattle because of all those big corporate, Amazon, Microsoft and stuff, Boeing. There's all these techies that are working there that they do video game development on the free time. And they don't know where to go for voiceover half the time, So that's what I want to do with CCC is reach out to those guys too. Tell them, hey, you can get good quality, budget, or affordable, or on any budget kind of thing. Because a lot of these guys, they don't even have Kickstarters. They don't have much crowdsourcing. Or crowdfunding. They don't have much of a budget themselves. They can afford, $100 per voice actor at best. So
that's really smart.
And there's a lot of people who would do that. There's that talk on the professional side about what fair pay really is, and non-union versus union pay. But when it comes down to it, if Jimmy in his basement wants to make a stick figure video and Timmy in his basement wants to voice that stick figure video, and they know there's no money involved and they don't care, they're just doing it for fun, why the hell should we tell them what to do? If they want to, let's give them a platform for that. That's kind of where CCC started, but now it's definitely branching off into many different fun and interesting directions.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the next question here? Can you tell me anything about the season 2 of The 7 Deadly Sins? I love the show and I miss it so much.
I wish. We have not recorded it. I don't know anything about season 2. Unfortunately, I have nothing to share.
Oh. So many of these questions are the same, and I went through them already throughout this interview. Basically, your biggest tips for an up-and-coming and young voice actors, your biggest, secret, if you have one.
Secrets. As far as like a little tip thing, no. Anytime I tried to come up with a cool idea with slates or things like that, it doesn't really matter. They're just looking for the substance of your audition. So I wouldn't worry about that. Just act well your part.
When you poop, do you poop in the voice of Noctis?
Absolutely not. No, that Pooping Noctis is owned by Square Enix, and I would have to pay them a royalty of $45,000 if I use that voice while pooping. So it's absolutely against the rules.
Here we go. Here's a better question. If you were a scented candle, what would your smell be?
I love lavender. It's my favorite smell in the world. I would love to be a lavender scented candle.
When you prepare to start recording, what is your pre-recording ritual?
So one thing you don't usually get for video games, you never get your scripts ahead of time, so you don't know what the day is going to be like. But if I at least know what project I'm going to be working on, I listen to the music of that project in the car as I'm driving over. I have a ton of video game music, and so I like to listen to that to get amped. I was recording Final Fantasy. I was always listening to Final Fantasy music all.
I always love the music that was in all the Final Fantasy games, but I think the one that stuck out to me the most was the opener theme song to, I can't remember which one it was, one of the earlier ones before 7, and it was this underwater I was like, I don't know, I just whenever I put in my headphones and stuff, it just lets me fall right to sleep. It's so soothing. Okay, quick, you just killed him. Where do you dump the body?
You know what about the dumping the body thing that I never understand? Why don't you just cut it up into a lot of little pieces? It's probably really disgusting and hard to do, but if you just slowly get rid of the body out in the desert, once a week you drive out, you put a couple out there, it's going to be a lot harder to find them, right?
Yeah, there's coyotes out there too. They'd help you do part of the job.
Yeah, exactly. That's smart. Yeah. Give it to a coyote.
Yeah, and I'm a farmer. I'm a gardener. I'm a hobbyist, but that'd be pretty good for my soil too if I cut it up into small enough pieces. Exactly. I got some compost piles. Do you have any voice remedies, any throat remedies, like any secret? What are they called? Like a secret blend of herbs and spices, your honey, lemon, lime, whatever. What's your favorite?
I recommend that Peipa Koa if you have it. It's a loquat syrup, Chinese loquat syrup. That stuff is gold, and if you heat it up and add a couple of tablespoons to it. That's definitely something. And rest, and really let yourself rest. I don't go to loud parties anymore. Those are awful for your voice.
Yeah, I was at this little networking thing in Seattle with another guy that I work with at CCC, and the whole time I'm just like, yeah, so we're doing this and this, and on my drive home I'm like this. I'm like,
you don't realize, yeah, it does a lot of damage to your throat talking over music.
Yeah. Okay, so here's one. How is the darkness, you traitor? And why aren't you showing up for Kingdom Hearts 3 as Sora's Master of Masters?
I wish he did. I don't know. Nomura wrote a thing that said, Master Masters isn't coming back ever. Who knows how true that is? But yeah, I don't. I wish I knew what his deal was. I wish I knew what he whispered in Lushu's ear at the end of 2.8. So many things I wish I knew. I'm right there with you.
So remember, I was saying some of them are a little inappropriate.
Sure.
Well, this one is a very personal question. It's about your ego.
Okay.
How big is your ego?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, then I'll answer that question with Gladio's puny like yours, and then Noctis in that one scene in the Moogle Chocobo Carnival, he says, "Who's puny now, huh?"
Oh God. Do you have any pillows of Kingdom Hearts characters at home?
No, I have one that my mother sent me of Zack from Fantasy VII because she thought it was Noctis, and so I keep that one. It's really nice.
Why is Noctis so hot with an AW instead of an O? Hot.
Noctis is so hot because probably be a little more appealing to the people who have to spend 80 to 100 hours with him at a time. It doesn't hurt the Final Fantasy brand, I don't think.
Yeah. So what was your favorite in-studio recording session? Like just anything that happened that made it just feel really special. You're hanging out with people, you're having a good time, you know, or just a great session. What was your favorite so far that you can remember?
I mean, one of the last sessions that we ever did was the campfire scene at the end of 15.
Oh, yeah.
And that was an emotional session for me because we recorded it in order. And so that was one of the very last sessions that I...
So did you guys actually were all in studio together, or was it...
Oh, no, we never were... We didn't meet during the recording session. Just Robbie and I knew each other. But we only met like maybe once or twice in passing. We always had to record separately for the game. The engineer, David, and Keith, and Dan, and Dan, and Stephanie, and Anthony. It was great to... It was great to have those two emotional reactions coincide like that on that same day. That was a lot of fun and great as an actor. You hope for those kinds of of serendipitous occasions. Yeah.
Oh, I'm not sure if you get the reference on this one. It's fairly new. Do you know the way?
Do you know the way? Of course. If that happened to me in real life and there was just a bunch of little malformed knuckles coming up to me, I wouldn't know what to do. I would run away screaming. It'd be terrible. Yeah.
Oh man. Which classes have you taken so far in the last couple of years, and who have you gone through for coaching? If you feel like mentioning them.
Of course, yeah. Thomas Pinto is someone I really liked for narration coaching. I know it's not sexy to talk about narration, but that's the real deal. He's a great guy. He founded a place called Voice Tracks West, which I go to a lot. Does great Skype sessions. I highly recommend him. And I take a lot of classes at Marilyn Wisner. She does.
Yeah. Done some
yeah,
coaching with her.
She's great, and she brings in a lot of great casting directors, and so I always do those. Those are really worth the expense.
Yeah, I'll read you a fan compliment. I'll give you a little jerker, a little tugger is what it's called. Hello, Ray. I'm a huge fan of yours, and technically I'm somewhat of an impersonator, as I'm currently voicing Prince Noctis in the fan-made audio drama of FFXV. What are some tips as a beginning voice actor to move past that one? One thing I've learned was to be confident in yourself and your ability, which has led me to roles I'm currently active with. Not being afraid to do what feels right. Taking the form of another person's original character is always daunting in a way that people expect you to sound identical to the original take, and that I keep that in mind. But I also want to know that it's important to stay true to yourself and voice as naturally as can be. It's important to stay true to yourself and keep your voice as natural as it can be. Thank you so much for your time reading this and engaging with the community. And personally, from me, this comes from me, not from this question anymore. That's the one thing that appealed me to you is when I searched your name on YouTube, I saw so many interviews and your willingness to talk to the community and everything.
Absolutely,
and that's one thing we all really appreciate. And
that's great. Yeah, and for you out there voicing Noctis, don't worry too much about the sound. His intention is always pure. He's a very, very pure being who's always hoping for the best. And can sometimes cloud it in, that typical teenager thing where you're trying to act cooler than you really are. Yeah. And I think that's where a lot of Noctis comes from. So remember that when you're playing him, and good luck.
At what point do you know you're ready to get an agent? And what advice do you have for an aspiring voice actor to find a good agent?
When you're ready to get an agent, you have to be making some amount of money on your own and have the ability to bring jobs to them. You can't expect them to get you everything. So I would say that's the point when you're ready. If you can reasonably go into their office and say, "Hey, I can make you some money," that would be the best. And you have to have a good commercial reel done. That's the only thing that really matters.
Growing up as a kid, what would you say was your favorite, voice actor, your all-time favorite voice acting experience from any game, movie, cartoon, or anything?
It's bizarre, but I loved Nintendo, and I loved Mario Party 3 specifically. And I just loved me and my buddy Ross would just play that nonstop and mimic the voices all the time. There was just something so funny about that one where Charles Martinet was just he was just a little bit off on some of them. Like Luigi was just here. He just wasn't putting a lot into it. It was a really fun one for us. So Mario Party 3, it was a big one.
As a fellow gamer, have you played the first Metal Gear Solid 1 for PS1 back in the 90s when it came out?
I didn't play it when it came out because I only had Nintendo systems, but I did play it about 4 years ago or so, and it was awesome.
I've got to say, my all-time, I know this isn't my interview, but my all-time favorite experience was David Hayter as Solid Snake from those early games, because Hideo Kojima, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, he always had such a great way of telling a deep story that was meant for all ages, but had such strong emotions in it. It had different thoughts, different ideas that I never really thought about as a child. I was 10 years old when I played that game. I didn't understand half the stuff they were talking about, and it was forcing me to have these real emotions about stuff that I've never fathomed before.
Yeah, I was talking with my buddy, and I realized that he's the only Japanese game designer who I'm aware of who's ever, in the entire history of video games, set games in the real world. Every single other Japanese video game has to be in some sort of fictional or fantasy setting.
And I guess this is the end for these questions right here. I got to ask you, if you had a real-life Chocobo, what color would it be, and what would you name it?
I would have you gotta have a black Chocobo because they're the coolest and they can fly. So what I would name it, chocolate.
Midnight.
Yes.
All right. Hey, well, that was awesome. I really appreciate all of your time here and talking to you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Chad, and I hope that helps some of you guys out there. Thanks for the questions.
Yeah, so everybody here at CCC, thanks you for your time and doing this interview and stuff, and we're always hoping to constantly bring more content to our listeners and all the other users of CCC that are trying to become, professional voice actors and are working their way up, and I know they appreciate your time too.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Bye.